Greetings, social media land. This is Ted Victor, founder of the Broward Social Network. Today is Friday, June the 5th at approximately 5 p.m. in the afternoon. Today, this is going to be part 2 of the women being able to talk on behalf of the current events. I say, as of recently, I am George Floyd. I am George Floyd. We have witnessed the horrific murder of a young man who was handcuffed and on the ground, uh, being detained by police with the knee on the neck, which I later found out is part of the policy in Minneapolis. And I'm wondering how many more uh, police departments throughout the country has this policy. So what I've done here at the Broward Social Network, I've invited some of the best minds who are concerned citizens, who are running for office, who are leaders in their respective communities, to be able to figure out where are we, how did we get here, and how do we move forward from here, because this is an unsustainable model. Again, my name is Ted Victor. I'm the founder of the Broward Social Network. And as a social organization, I have to be able to find a way for us to be able to coexist peacefully in this country, and that cannot happen with the rate of police brutality. So I have a few speakers with me today, and there'll be some more trickling in, hopefully in a few more minutes. I'm going to give them the opportunity to introduce themselves. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, Twitch, and DLive. And I'm working on transmitting this over to Instagram as well. If you are able to witness this interview, this conversation, please share it with your friends, join, and I'll be taking questions from the public for as long as these wonderful leaders can stand being in a room with me virtually. So let's start with Kimberly Henderson. Please introduce yourself for about 1 minute. Who are you, what do you do, before we get into the general conversation?
Kimberly Henderson, President and CEO of Neighborhood Housing Services of South Florida. We're a community development nonprofit that has operated for 41 years in South Florida. And we're also an affiliate of NeighborWorks America.
Awesome, awesome. Welcome to the Broward Social Network. Next, Maureen Porras, please introduce yourself to Social Media Land. Who are you, and what gifts do you bring to humanity?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Maureen Porras, and I'm a candidate for state representative in District 105. I am an immigration attorney. I have been providing immigration legal services for over 11 years, and I currently work for a nonprofit, a global nonprofit that provides immigration and refugee services. And I'm very happy to be here to have this very, very important discussion with everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Melba Pearson, please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Melba Pearson. I'm running to be the next state attorney of Miami-Dade County. The election is on August 18th. My background consists of me being a prosecutor in Miami-Dade County for close to 16 years, handling everything from auto theft to double homicides. And then I became the deputy director of the ACLU of Florida in 2017, where I worked on voting rights issues, criminal justice reform, and police practices. I resigned that position in 2019 to open my own firm, MVP Law, where I work with nonprofits to provide them criminal justice policy expertise. But I am a full-time candidate for the job of state attorney, and I'm really looking forward to the discussion this evening.
Thank you so very much, Melba. And one of my favorite people, Mary Woodson. Mary Woodson, please, once again, there are no strangers to the Broward Social Network. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Ted, and thanks for having me again. I am so elated to be with these wonderful women and one of my favorite brothers, Ted Victor, this afternoon. My name is Marie Woodson, and I'm a retired public administrator from Miami-Dade County government. I spent my entire career addressing life issues, making an impact on county government with the residents of the county. As well, I'm the immediate past chair of the Miami-Dade County Commission for Women and a member of the Legislative Committee for many years. I'm here to talk about this important topic that is affecting every single one of us. We thought COVID was bad, and then now we are really facing, I would say, something that is even worse than a pandemic. So we are here to talk about this issue, and hopefully we can come up with some resolution, not even resolution, maybe some ways to start addressing this issue. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. We have Caroline Willing, who just joined us. I'm not necessarily sure if you guys, hey Caroline, can you hear us? Hey Caroline, can you hear us?
Hi. Yes, I can.
Hi, you're welcome, welcome. You're just on time for the introduction. Please take a minute to introduce yourself to social media land. Tell us who you are and what do you do?
I'm Councilwoman Caroline Williams. I represent Miami-Dade County, Area 8, Sub-Area 82. And I ran in 2018 and I'm running again in this election cycle. I'm also a proud board member of Neighborhood Housing Services of South Florida. I was doing amazing work in the area of community development. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, well, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please stand by while I share some information, an image, a small video with you all, okay? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's roll. Okay, so I don't just listen to the passion in which he delivers the message. I just listen to the words as well. And I too want to live. I too want to live in this country of ours. So thank you. Good morning, America. Thank you for Keydron Bryant, 12-year-old, making a powerful statement to this country, because I don't think any child should be raised in fear. I don't think any child should grow up in fear in America. So I'm going to ask, we have attorneys in the room, I'm going to ask Melba Pearson to give us a very quick synopsis of current events, because as hard as you all work at getting the information out, somebody walking down the street is not aware of what's going on, because they might have bigger fish to fry, such as food on the table, such as getting a job, such as COVID-19. So Melba, if you can give us a synopsis of where are we in America today? Why are people rioting all over the world? And I always say that there is a silver lining in crises, because this crisis is that all Americans are coming together to say that this is wrong. I've seen on social media, because I live on Social Media Avenue, I've seen white people tell other white people, Black Lives Matter. And so talk to us. By the way, you all should probably silence your phones, put it on silent, and talk to us, Melba, as to how we got here and why are people protesting all over the world.
Okay, so thank you again for this opportunity. The problem that we're looking at is just the tipping point of something that started in 1619, right? So it's still the vestiges of slavery, of all of the inequities that occurred in this country over the course of the last nearly 500 years. But what brought us to this specific point is that we had a season, much like we did in 2014, where we were looking at the deaths of back-to-back back, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, Laquan McDonald, all of those came out back to back and caused some unrest at that time. Now you have that more magnified. The underlying issues started with the Ahmaud Arbery case in Brunswick, Georgia, where he was a young man jogging through a predominantly white neighborhood and was profiled by 3 white men. He was followed and shot dead in the street. And it's now come to light that one of the shooters used a racial epithet once he completed shooting him. And that case was punted from prosecutor to prosecutor to prosecutor until the governor finally stepped in to be able to appoint a special prosecutor. And it was around that time when the video came to light that people really protested. And that's what resulted in the special prosecutor as well as charges being filed. But then right on the heels of that, we had Breonna Taylor, who was an African-American female EMT sleeping in her home in Louisville, Kentucky. The police department came on and knocked on her door with a no-knock warrant, which means they had no legal duty to announce themselves as police officers. They came to her house at 12:30 at night. They kicked in the door. Her boyfriend, who was with her, and they were both asleep in their bed, used his legal firearm to shoot at the officers because he had no idea they were police officers, and there were people breaking into his home in the middle of the night. They returned fire. Breonna was killed, and the boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, was actually arrested, even though he had a very solid stand your ground defense because of the fact he was in his home at 12:30 at night and strangers broke in. And then right on the heels of that, we then had George Floyd. So that discontent was already there.
Back to back.
And this took it over the edge. So what happened with George Floyd is that he was at a convenience store. There was some dispute as to whether or not the money he was using to pay for some items that he had purchased was counterfeit or not. The store clerk called the police. Police responded, and we're not completely positive of how everything transpired, but we do know there's video footage of him being beaten by the police officers in the back of the police car and then him being thrown to the ground. Multiple video angles show that, number one, ex-officer Derek Chauvin placed his knee upon George Floyd's neck for close to 9 minutes until he expired. And then the other 3 officers that were on the scene, one just basically stood there, and the other 2 also kneeled on him in different parts of his body so that he would not be able to wiggle away or escape.
And just to be clear, he was handcuffed, right? He was handcuffed, right?
He was handcuffed in a prone position, so he was not, based on the video, he was not offering resistance. He was not offering violence to the police officers. Not that that would have justified any of this, but I just want to make sure to remove some of these other arguments that have been floating around. So he ended up dying as a result. And because that video has gone viral, and sadly, it was videotaped by a 17-year-old African-American girl who will never be the same after witnessing that, and her video being key evidence now moving forward in this case, the public outcry was palpable, and it resulted in ex-officer Chauvin. First of all, it resulted in the 4 officers being fired. Then Officer Chauvin was charged originally with 3rd-degree murder as well as manslaughter. And then, as a result of the continued outcry, the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota stepped in as a special prosecutor. Basically, he himself is going to handle the case. He didn't go and appoint somebody else. He is going to step in and intervene. The charges were escalated from 3rd-degree murder to 2nd-degree murder, which increases the maximum amount of time that he faces in prison. And then the other 3 officers were arrested as well, I believe it was this week, for aiding and abetting, basically being an accomplice. They stood there and basically assisted in the murder occurring. So that's how we got to this point. And now this is a discussion that's not only held nationally, but also internationally, where other people who were victims of police violence in France and Germany, multiple other countries, are raising their voice in standing in solidarity.
Australia. Yes, and I like the word solidarity because I'm going to go over and speak to Caroline Williams about solidarity. And really, I'm speaking to the entire community who is listening to this broadcast, because I will replay this until the largest possible audience can see this message. Let's go to the other attorney in the room. Maureen Porras, you are a candidate for office. Let's unmute your microphone and go ahead and speak to you as well, Maureen. Give us some additional information, because I don't think we know. What about the chief of police? Is the chief of police also fired, Melba?
The chief of police in Minneapolis has not been fired, but the chief of police in Louisville, Kentucky was fired because of the fact there was another officer involved shooting this past weekend, a man by the name of David McAtee. And he was killed, somebody who owned a popular barbecue stand and was known for his good work in the community. And there's still a lot of questions around that incident because the officers involved did not wear a body camera, or if there were one, it wasn't activated. So there was no footage to explain why this exchange happened. So the mayor of Louisville then fired the police chief as a result of back-to-back Breonna Taylor and David.
So was this, so after George Floyd, we had another Black man that was brutalized by the police and thus killed as well?
Exactly. Yes,
okay.
yes.
Maureen Porras, you are running for office and you are the other attorney in the room. And if I'm mistaken, I don't know if Ms. Henderson, you have a law degree. You have to let me know, because I'm going to give you some of the legal questions as well. Let's just say, God forbid, this is something that's happening in real time in my company or in somebody else's company. What legal permissions does the average citizen have to tell the police officer, hey, you're breaking the law? You're not supposed to do this. Is there a platform by which the average citizen can tell the police, I know somewhere in this universe, maybe even in your manual, that this is not right?
Yeah, thanks, Ted. So I'm not a criminal defense attorney. We do have to take constitutional law in law school, though. What I can tell you is that there are certain states, and I'm not sure if Florida has this, have certain statutes against unlawful arrests. And I don't know, Melba probably can speak to this. I'm not sure if we have that. And even though if we did have it, I don't think many people try to invoke that, because, you know, I think the outcome would not be surprising, right? It's kind of like when you're trying to resist arrest because you feel that you didn't break the law or do anything wrong, but they charge you with resisting arrest, right? So it can never end, it doesn't end well. So I haven't seen too many people do that. Now, you know, there have been times, especially in the immigration context, where law enforcement officers or officers from ICE try to come in and execute an unlawful warrant. And we can intervene, any regular person can intervene. And, you know, if it works, great. If it doesn't, and the officer arrests you, then you're detained and you're arrested, you know? So it really depends. It depends on the—
But in your world, so I understand that you are involved in immigration, but in your world, we do know that abuses do happen in your world, right? In your world, what do you say? What do you say as an average citizen or even as an attorney? What do you say to the law enforcement when they are out of hand and out of control? What do you say to them?
Yeah, so you raise your defense and you raise whatever statute they're violating. And again, you know, it really depends on whether that officer is going to comply or not. I have seen situations where officers do back off, you know, once you mention that they're breaking a specific law, especially if you're filming it, right? So when you're filming it, they definitely are a lot more careful with their actions. But again, I feel like from my experience, not just with what we see every day and on video, but my experience as an immigration attorney is that law enforcement and police officers have this specific authority and this power that they try to at least exercise, whether they're right or wrong. You know, and so it could end up that they actually arrest someone. So in the cases of immigration, of immigrants, even if they're unlawfully arresting you, if they arrest you, they'll take you. And then, you know, you can try to resolve that after you've been arrested. but I think the act of arrest is pretty discretionary sometimes, regardless of whether you're advising the officer that they're breaking the law. And that has been my experience, and that has been my experience with ICE especially. I have gone in front of ICE with clients, with immigrants, and I have intervened against unlawful executions of orders of removal. And I was almost arrested for it, for intervening. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And then when it doesn't work.
Right, because we have Vivente Brown who's live with us. She says that doesn't work. The intervention that you're talking about doesn't work. Before I move on to the other panelists, does the police officer have a right to say to me, stop filming me, stop videotaping me, take down your cell phone, you do not have the right to film me? Does he or she have the right to do that? Or are we free to videotape them, whatever they're doing?
Yes, you are. And as long as you're doing it from a safe distance, then you're fine with filming.
Okay.
Again, a lot of officers will say no, and they'll violate that right. They'll push people, they'll tell them, you know, stop filming, and they'll intimidate the person that's filming. So again, everyone has a right to film.
Okay. All right. So Kimberly Henderson, you're up next, Kimberly. I really would like to be able to have you speak on what goes through your mind when you see the video, what goes through your mind during this climate. I don't know if you have sons, because my mother has 3 boys, and every time when we were growing up, my mother would watch the news and she sees somebody that's nearly close to our age implicated in the news, she would get sick. So what goes through your mind during this climate? Because I'm really literally trying to maintain my composure in front of you ladies. I'm supposed to be a gentleman, but deep down inside, really, I'm broken. I am in pain because I am George Floyd.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, I don't have children, but I am the daughter of a Black man, and I'm a niece and a sister.
You're a human being. You're a human being.
Yes, and I have many Black male cousins and nephews as well. And I'm from a city, originally Milwaukee, where police brutality has been problematic. And also, I think what goes through my mind is somewhat similar to what is going through the mind of Black and brown men, which is this can go bad. This encounter can go bad, and it can go bad really quickly. I went to grad school in Texas, and I'm a date myself. It was over 30 years ago. And I could remember being really afraid when I was driving and got pulled over. And I think that's the thing that sort of hints at the inequality, is that we have to be afraid. We shouldn't be afraid in a democracy of the police, because they're there to protect us. We shouldn't have to wonder, well, should we call or not call? Because if they come and they perceive us as a threat as opposed to a victim, then we could end up getting hurt. So that hints at the inequality. Someone said to me that they could see in that man's eyes, he was almost demonic and almost gleeful in holding this Mr. Floyd down. And I think what that gets at is the sense that as African Americans, we're less than human, that our rights won't be protected, because there's a very good track record of our rights not being protected, of us not being able to get justice. And I don't think for women, for Black women, that it rises fully to the same level as Black men. But I can tell you, my sister got into a verbal situation with a sheriff in the neighborhood that she grew up in, which borders a white neighborhood, and this is in Milwaukee. And as she was recounting to me, and she sort of stuck up for herself, all I could think, and then I started yelling at her, why would you stand up to him? Why would you talk back? Why would you assert your rights in a white neighborhood in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, with our history, on a dark, rainy night in a white suburb? Because not only could he kill you, no one's gonna see it, and we won't even get justice. So the mere fact that we have to think like this and raise our sons to be fearful, it gets to the inequality, the social and civic inequality in this country.
Whew. Thank you for sharing that. Let's go to Caroline Williams. And I really, really appreciate that, because it really brings a personal connection to the current events of today. Caroline Williams, if folks have been, somebody sent me a message says, well, you know, my panel needs to be diverse. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. There is just no way that I should be the only person responsible for my safety. We are all responsible for each other's safety. This is about a Black person. This is about Black men, but this is obviously not only for Black men. This is for everyone, because Black women have been killed, white people have been killed, and Hispanics have been killed. And we ought to be able to say, no more, no more, no more. This is everybody's responsibility. So in the vein of keeping this as a coalition building endeavor, I invited other folks, and believe it or not, and I respect it. I have had white friends say, you know what, Ted, I support you. I'm against what happened to George Floyd, but I'm going to silently sit back, and you know, I don't think it's my place to say anything. I respect that. I respect that. I've also had, when I started on Monday, the first time, I've also had white men on the panel as well that says, you know what, we have to stop this. So however you choose to get to the side of safety, get to the side where everybody is, the side where everybody seems respected equally, because I believe we're all children of God equally, I respect that. So Caroline, talk to us. And I'm not necessarily able to see you too well. I don't know, I was able to see you before. I don't know, you look something like Star Trek, I don't know. You seem to be looking behind you a whole lot, but maybe we can hear you. Hello? I can't hear you. All right, so while you get it together, let me go ahead and go on to Marie Woodson. Marie Woodson, I know that you are not just running for office, but you are also a mother. And let me tell you something, we men got testosterone, but do not mess with a woman's child. They will eat you with a side of salty chips. Yes. They will eat you, okay? Yes. They will eat you. Do not mess with your boys. Do not mess with your kids, because George Floyd was somebody's son, right? He was somebody's son. And I don't know where his mother is in this experience, but I'm pretty sure she just was kind of like, but no, he did, his mother passed, because there were reports about him calling out to his mother who passed away and stuff like that. But even in the afterlife, I'm sure she was crying and so forth. So what goes through your mind as a concerned citizen and as a mother when you hear the reports nowadays?
Ted, thank you so much for that. We have seen a lot of killings since I've been here. I'm originally from Haiti, as you know, came here when I was 21. And I remember when I started driving here, the first thing my uncle, who I used to live with, told me, he said, let me tell you something. One of the things that you will not do, you will not talk to the police. If they stop you, you would not talk back to them. You would not say anything. Just say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. And I try to ask him a question, why is that? Like if it's something where I could not say something back, he said, you don't want to die. And I never forgot that. And as the years go by, coming from another country, I realized why he was saying that, because we have seen so many senseless killings. Yes, we know we need both sides. We have some good police officers. There's no doubt about that. But we have a lot of police officers who want to create an us against them mentality, like in the case of George Floyd. As a mother of one biological son, I'm a mother to millions, because once you are a mother, you are a mother to all.
That's
no
right.
matter who the man is, who the kid is, you are a mother to them. And I really take this one, really took me to a level that I never experienced before. As a mother, when you're sitting, looking at this video, this one has broken me down, actually, more than even I usually get upset when senseless killings like that happen. But this one, I was broken down, devastated, and I'm still trying to deal with the fact when you're sitting, looking at the video, seeing what the man is going through, and the police officers just his knees on his neck, on George Floyd's neck, with his hand on his pocket, like he's playing a game, like, okay, this is normal for me, this is nothing. You can't help it but feeling angry, feeling upset, feeling like, do you value humans' life? Do you really feel anything? Ted, there's no word to describe our anger, our frustration. One thing that I know as a people, we are resilient. We have had people who have stood there and make sure they create a path for us where we can stand and have this conversation today, where we can get on the bus and don't have to sit in the back, where we can go and drink on that water fountain that we couldn't do before. We have had those ancestors who have done so much for us, and we don't want to go back there. We do not want to go back there. This is why I'm so happy that so many people are coming together, Black, white, everybody, Hispanic, we all standing together and saying enough is enough. As a mother, there's no feeling to describe what we experience. As a sister, as a daughter, as a brother, you have seen the frustration of the entire world, and we all are saying in unison, enough is enough. We need to make sure that these things don't keep happening like that. Because what happens usually when those type of situations happen, we all get excited, we all get upset, we all, protesting, doing this, doing that. Then we go back to business as usual, like nothing had happened. Well, this time, I hope this is not the case. I hope that we all can continue to push and ask for reform and ask for policies and laws to address those senseless killings that are really killing our world, our community, and our nation. So as a mother, Ted, there's no way for me to describe what happened. And I hope that this is not the end of it, that the world continue to stand together and make sure that we see the change that we want to see.
Okay, I thank you very much. Before I go to Caroline, how are we doing? Let me just test your mic. Are you with us? I still cannot hear you. Hello? I think I hear a little something. I don't understand why you keep looking back. Hello? Okay, we'll come back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, good.
All right. I can't hear you anymore. Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh,
let me just make a statement before you go ahead. And one of the major things, and I'm not fortunate enough to be an elected official yet. I'm going to run and I hope to be elected. However, you don't really need a title to be a leader. We know that, okay? One of the things I've learned is that you can say some things a million times. However, somebody still says, oh, I didn't hear you say that. I'm going to say it again. I applaud the good police officers. I applaud the good police officers, just like I applaud good teachers. I'm going to say that I believe the majority of cops are good cops. I also applaud my white brothers and sisters who are joined us in this movement, because this cannot be just about Black men. And this is a human coalition for the sake of peace and coexistence and respect for all human beings on this planet. And therefore, Caroline, talk to us about what goes through your mind when you hear about George Floyd? As a sister who is not African American, as a member of the movement, what goes through your mind when you hear about George Floyd's and the many cases of police brutality that we are aware of and the ones that we're not aware of? I cannot hear you.
Hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, but it's going in and out.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Let's try. Go ahead.
Just jump in. So a lot of things run through my mind. First of all, as a member of an interracial family, my mother married a Black man. And at a very early age, I saw my father brutalized by police. I saw my parents harassed by police simply because of their marriage. It was against the law for an interracial couple to get married in the 70s in Miami-Dade County. You know, we have to really look at our history so that we don't repeat it. And then consequently, as I grew up, my brother was brutalized by police and for no reason. You know, so and like, how does this happen? You know, and I think about, you know, movies. I think about that experience that we see portrayed in movies, that experience of a mother, a daughter, you know, seeing their loved ones go through this experience. And I just think we've hit a tipping point. I think that the collective consciousness is ready for change, and change doesn't always come slowly. It comes often very rapidly. And that's why also I really applaud Melba for running, because we look at what happened with the young man in prison, in the jail, where he was scalded to death. You know, we look at, for example, the stop and frisk laws. I mean, so it's not just this officer with this person, it's all of these things together. It's all of our history. It's everybody knows somebody who's been impacted by this, and we're more comfortable to have these conversations. Definitely, I appreciate what you said though about me, and my skin is not very thin, you know, and I think those people who are on the front lines of this change are able to move beyond that, you know. And now we see the young people coming in resilient, you know, protesting with that thick skin, with that resiliency, with that tenacity. And I applaud them all for that.
Do you think that, because some people are saying, you know, well, why are they looting? Why are they so angry? Why are they breaking windows? Do you think that the history that you talk about so wonderfully, so accurately, that there's some sort of a pent up, quiet anger on the inside of the people as a result of so many years of abuse, of enslavement, of indentured servitude, of disrespect? Do you believe that there's an understanding for where, because there's something in the law, you lawyers can correct me, there's something called temporary insanity. And usually when somebody's kind of quiet and just takes the abuse for years and years and years, and one day they just kind of snap. So is there some understanding, or folks are just saying, you know what, these Black people, they're just so angry all the time? So is there some understanding as to where the anger comes from?
Well, you know, I hear what you're saying, and it was a post on Facebook where there was a young lady saying, well, we don't have access, we don't have the social equity, we don't have social economic justice, so therefore we have nothing to lose. But I would have to say, though, the protest that happened on Sunday, the residents of Overtown said, no, you are not going to march through our neighborhood. And so they redirected the march to Biscayne Boulevard. And I thought, very good, community, because that's what all communities do. They stand up, they speak up for their community. And this community, hard hit as it is, found the wherewithal to be able to advocate and say, no, we can't do this now. We have homeless people living on the streets. Our homes, our buildings are old and aged. No, And I went over there because that's where it was, you know, advertised to start. And I was treated kind of rough. You know, they were like, "Hey, Karen, get your white privilege and get out of here." And for a second, I was indignant and I wanted to talk back. And then I just left, you know. But then I thought about it, you know, and I thought about it because everybody needs the chance to be heard.
Right.
And so, yeah, and a lot of the looting, as you know, are out-of-towners. There are forces that want to sabotage this peaceful protest. If you even look at our president and saying one protester, one bullet, I mean, that's insane. And as we know, yesterday, there was a man protesting who was shot. Are you familiar with him?
No, I didn't hear that because
Yeah, he
there's
was
just so
shot
much
to
going on.
death. Yeah,
He was shot just yesterday.
just
Oh my
yesterday.
God.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, it's you really have to, we have to become more committed to staying on top of the news, staying on top of the articles and sharing this information. So I applaud you, Ted, for having this forum, for reaching to those people who may not have been able to get access to this extent. So
Well,
thank you.
I thank you very much, but I just wish I had the means to rewrite the curriculum for education. I really do, for so many reasons, because the curriculum we have in place is not keeping up with the real world. And one of the things that I would like to do is that people forget. We know very well about Harriet Tubman. We know how, you know, how she was able to free slaves going up to Canada. A lot of people forget that a lot of white abolitionists helped her. A lot of white abolitionists help her. She was a hero, and I'm not taking anything away from her, but she had a coalition on her own. White folks were part of that movement. So there's just no way that we can free women without the help of men. There's just no way that we can free Black people without the help of Native Americans, and vice versa. We all must be part of this as a collective. And I'm looking at
the LGBTQ community as well.
All oppressed
The
communities.
Dreamers are really standing fast.
When I say my people, I'm talking about every community that is oppressed, independent of color. Every community that is financially and sociopolitically marginalized. When I say my people, when I look into my classroom and I see a wonderful rainbow of complexions and colors, my people, my students, because maybe for the first 5 minutes when they walk into my class, I recognize their race, but then at the end of that, they're my students. However,
but Black history is not being taught in our school system today, and that's
it is in my class. It is in my classroom. It is in my classroom, which is why I say to you, I would like to be able to rewrite the curriculum, and that's a conversation I need to have with the folks in Tallahassee and possibly with Robert Runcie, with the superintendent as well. But unfortunately, my biggest enemy in life is time. So I'm going to give the next question to Melba Pearson, because unfortunately she's going to leave me. This is what I need for you. You know, I'm a teacher, Melba. I'm going to give you homework. I need to spend more time with you. I need to spend more time with all of you, because I always say there was a strategy, right, to have enslaved people separated, not reading, because they knew. Why do you think women didn't have the right to go to school? Why do you think the women didn't have the right to read? They knew as soon as you're able to develop this and get together, we would be powerful. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the technology. We may not have a lot of the money. However, we have the biggest capital. We have the will to survive, right? So I'm going to ask all of you, it could be in a week, it could be in a month, it could be tomorrow. Give me a call and let's talk about the next step, because one question I'd like for you to answer, Melba, before you leave, I'd like for you to talk about the possibility of us coming together and drafting policy for the local police departments. Should we help them write the plan out as to how the community should be treated? There's an argument about whether or not cops should live in the communities that they police. And some people say, well, no, we don't want that, because then, you know what, there could be some sort of retaliation. But I know for sure, as a human being, if somebody knows me, they're less likely to kill me, right? So talk about possibly drafting policy for the police departments nationally on a national scale, and being able to work to bridge the gap between cops and community.
So luckily, some of that work has already been done. For instance, there was the 21st Century Commission on Policing that was under President Obama, where he had brought together, I think it was Chief Ramsey out of Philly, who's now retired, and different law enforcement executives from across the country to really look at policing and figure out the ways to do it in a way that's more equitable, that results in less disparities as well as less violence. Unfortunately, under the current administration, all of that work was disbanded. The task force surrounding that work was disbanded, and a different approach was taken that encouraged more violent behavior. Also, you have lately this, I think it was D. Ray McKinnison and some other folks who were working on 8 Can't Wait. And that lists off 8 different strategies that police departments can implement today to see a drastic reduction in the incidents of violence between police officers and the communities that they serve. And I also want to hold up the city of Oakland, who through a lot of their work has managed to almost virtually eliminate police shootings in their city. And as you know, Oakland has not always had the best reputation when it comes to violence and all of that. So there's definitely resources out there that we can basically bring to different police departments and say, will you buy into this, right? But I think some of the important work that has to be done is some of the commissioners here in Miami-Dade County are looking to implement a civilian oversight panel that would do that work of whenever there's a complaint coming from civilians to law enforcement, they have powers to subpoena evidence and have a hearing and interview the officer, interview witnesses, and then make a finding and give a suggestion to the chief of police. This person should be reprimanded. This person should go for additional training. This person should not be an officer anymore, right? So they have that as a way to bridge the community with policing to be able to make sure that there's transparency and people are able to be heard. We only have civilian oversight panels in the city of Miami. There's one in Sarasota, and I believe there may be one in Tampa, St. Pete, but there's only 3 in the state of Florida, which is definitely problematic. So that's probably where we should start, and definitely encourage that concept of community policing, where the officers get out of their cars and walk around and get to know the people in the neighborhood. Because when you have that kind of rapport, you have people that are more willing to give you information about crimes in progress or a crime that happened in recent history, which results in better outcomes for the community. And lastly, I think that police officers should live in the communities they police, because of the simple fact, most places in the country, that's the norm. Okay.
Well, let me ask you something else. And if any of you know police officers who are willing to get on this platform and have a conversation so that we can have a better understanding with the community, I welcome that entirely. Let me ask you something very quickly before you leave, Melba, and then I want you to share with us how is it that the community can find you, can reach you, contribute to your campaign. I am using my platform of thousands of participants. I think, I'm not sure, but I think I'm the largest largest multilingual social media platform dedicated to education and politics in South Florida. And I need to be able to get good people like you elected. Here's a naive question, and it's probably going to make somebody laugh. Is it possible that we can not have guns and just have tasers?
So that's not a silly question. And there has been a lot of discussion as to what force is required and what we should be doing when it comes to the direction of policing. I hesitate to say that is something that, well, let me back up for a second. I don't think police officers and police departments would be receptive to that at all, because right. America,
like I said, they probably laugh at that and so forth, because and it may or may not have an impact, because George Floyd didn't die with gun shooting, right? He died with some sort of a manual practice. And I'm pretty sure the defense, you lawyers can correct me if I'm wrong, the defense for the guy, I don't even want to mention his name, he's going to say, well, I did this because I was trained to do this, right? So they're not just dying, we're not just dying, I'm not just dying, me being George Floyd, I'm not just dying by gunshot, but it would at least reduce the likelihood. And I know that they're not going to go into a neighborhood where it's possible that somebody in the community might have a gun. So I just want to be able to reduce the potential for somebody dying unnecessarily. So I don't know if that is.
But a couple more things I just wanted to point out super quickly on that. Number one, if you look at the UK model, right, their officers don't carry guns. Their detectives don't carry guns. They have specialized units that if it's a high risk warrant or they have to take a fugitive into custody, those teams that go out are armed. But the average person, average officer on the beat does not carry a firearm. However, the UK is a very different environment than it is to the US, where gun rights are embedded in the Constitution. So the argument will always be from law enforcement, and I can't say that they're wrong, is that if the people out there are armed, how can we adequately respond to a firearm when all we have is a taser? So it's a matter of what's equitable force. However, what could be done, and also to keep in mind, tasers can be deadly too. There was the case of the young man on Miami Beach who was, I think he was doing some graffiti or some sort of art or something like that, and he was tased by police officers and he died. So tasers are not necessarily, especially if you have any underlying heart conditions or anything like that, that can still result in death. But the issue is about training. It's about de-escalation tactics and instructing officers that deadly force should be the last resort unless you are clearly being confronted with a weapon, right? And also, again, getting to know the community so then you have that rapport and it's less likely for violent incidences to break out, because you know if somebody is struggling with mental illness, you know if somebody's kid, you know, just likes to get into trouble and you know to bring them back to their parents, things like that. So that community policing, I think, is a critical piece to reducing police violence as well as other restorative techniques.
Okay, so before we go to Kimberly Henderson to also further expand on the relationship between cops and community, Melba Pearson, talk to us about how the community can reach you, support you. I, the Broward Social Network, wholeheartedly endorse you to be the district attorney in Miami. And I am particularly interested in helping good people get elected, because I believe that with our taxpayers' monies, with our presence in the community, we ought to be respected and considered as equals, no more than, nor less than anybody else in the community. And if, for example, somebody at the top is going to make policy for our community, I would want that person to be you. So therefore, tell us who, how can you be reached and how we can help you meet your goal for 2020.
Certainly, and thank you again, Ted, for allowing me to be on your platform and being able to address everyone. And ladies, it's amazing to have been on with all of you, and some of you I'm meeting for the first time, others we go way back. In order to reach me, you could reach me at my website, which is www.melba, M-E-L-B as a boy, A, for Miami.com, Melba4Miami.com. On my website, you can sign up to volunteer and receive our emails. You can also donate, because at the end of the day, this is a people-powered movement, but the movement is not free. So we definitely need everyone to support in whatever level they can. No amount is too little. The maximum for a campaign contribution for my race in Florida is $1,000. So whatever you're able to do is greatly appreciated. The election is August 18th. And again, people are very focused on what's happening in November. August 18th has a lot of local races that have a direct impact on your day-to-day life. Your mayor, your in Broward, the chief of police, your sheriff. So these are all folks who really set the policy of what your day-to-day life looks like. So you need to get engaged. So spread the word, learn about my platform, and encourage everyone you know to vote, and especially sign up to vote by mail so that you have options and not have to be worried about the pandemic and whether or not you can go out in public. So www.melba4miami.com. Thanks again.
Before you go, Melba, I'm going to reach out, because there's quite a number of people in Miami in the Broward Social Network. I'm going to reach out to my brothers and sisters who are Haitians and my brothers and sisters who are Spanish speakers, who are my brothers and sisters who are Latinos. Ma demande tout frère que nous captons des programme ça, s'il te plaît, l'heure est arrivée pour nous capables voter 18 août pour Melba Pearson to be state attorney, c'est qui même cap chef tout avocat. Non. Et Miami pour nous voter pour lui. C'est pour nous dire toutes les amis, toutes les voisins, pour nous voter pour Melba Pearson. Ahora en español, mis hermanos que hablan español, mis hermanos de Santo Domingo, de Puerto Rico, de Cuba, de América Latina entera, yo quisiera que ustedes voten para esta señora que quisiera ser la más alta de las jefas de los abogados en Miami, Melba Pearson. El agosto 18 hay que recordar esa fecha, Melba Pearson. Hay que compartir esa información con sus vecinos, con sus miembros de familia, con sus amigos, con sus socios, para votar por ella el 18 de agosto de este año. Les agradezco de antemano. Muchas gracias. And there you go, Melba Pearson. I will rebroadcast this and have as many people as possible hear this. And I thank you so very much for your time. And please send me a direct message, text me if there's anything we can do to get the help the word get out. And I specialize in reaching out to the different communities. I am at your service, and I wish you the best of luck in August, okay?
Thank you, I appreciate you. Everyone take good care. Bye.
Goodbye, bye-bye. Okay, so after Kimberly Henderson, we're going to go to Maureen to talk about a little bit more about policy and to talk about why we have to build coalitions, and we have to talk about your candidacy as well. And then we'll go on to Caroline Williams and then to Maria Woodson as well. So Kimberly Henderson, you talked about some experience with regards to the relationship between cops and community.
Yeah, I was glad that she mentioned Charles Ramsey. He's really well known. He was a police chief in Chicago. Then he came to Washington, DC, and I think he retired from Philadelphia. He's a big city chief. He's extremely well respected among big city chief. I've worked closely with law enforcement for a few years, so I've met him and I'm familiar with their professional association. And I know that within those circles, he's really well regarded. What he is known for is something called community policing, which he pioneered in Chicago. And the whole goal is to sort of break down those barriers between law enforcement and, you know, frankly, marginalized communities that they police. From what I've seen and read and heard, it has some promising results or promising outcomes. I do want to say a couple of things, and because my time with you all is short.
I don't like the sound of that, meaning that you have a prior commitment.
I have a prior, unfortunately. I want to say this. To see Charles Ramsey break the thin blue line, and many other law enforcement officers up and down the ranks, Hispanic, Black, white, take a knee, speak out and say they could not see anything right about what those officers did. This is a watershed moment because
Big time. People all over the world, Australia, France. I mean, I'm telling you, I raise several eyebrows, even though I only have two, but I raise several eyebrows when I see white people telling white people Black Lives Matter. I mean, there's no question. Why is that Black Lives Matter? Because all lives matter. All lives matter.
Right, but here's what is different. When you have a former big city chief, there are two associations. There are the big city chiefs, the Philadelphias, the Los Angeles, and then there are the smaller towns. The type of reputation that he has throughout the ranks of law enforcement nationwide. So for someone of his reputation and background, he is law enforcement. He's at the height of law enforcement. He's been well respected across at least 3 major cities. for him to say that carries a weight that the rest of us will never understand, because he's talking to rank and file police officers, and he's also talking to rank and file police chiefs in cities and towns of all sizes. He's breaking down that we're going to stand behind each other no matter what, and there's no right or wrong. And I think that's, I can't think of a time when that has been done before. So I do think it's really important that he and others have done this. But I also want to say something else, is as much as I believe in public policy, and I think there's something deeper and more insidious here, and it's really the core of racism. And so I think all the things we're talking about and the preceding speaker will make things tremendously better. But I think to really get at this, we have to start having conversations around issues of white supremacy and why Black people are marginalized in this society and seen as less than. This isn't even just about being a low income. We recently had a doctor who was arrested in front of his house. And so it gets to something else that I think we have to get to. In my role, we do have a Community Leadership Institute. It is a model practice across 300 affiliates across the country. And I do want to tap into that because I think it can give more training to everyday people, how they can engage power structures, how they can lobby on behalf of themselves. What you will find in most communities is that when the communities are organized, they get what they want from government. And I've seen it happen. And so I do think we have to really talk about helping low-income communities of all races become better organized to lobby on behalf of their interests.
Thank you very much for saying that. And you saying that you have to leave, if the community wanted to reach you to have a longer conversation with you. And by the way, whoever's listening, I'm going to include these in the description so you can text it to me, but tell folks how they can reach you if they wanted to be able to just kind of get to know you better and hear your stories a little bit longer.
Neighborhood Housing Services of South Florida. We are based in Little Havana and Oakland Park in Broward. We have been around for 41 years. Our website is nhssf.org, 305-751-5511 is the phone number. We're here to serve. We're here to help build up neighborhoods and people. And I'm new to South Florida, so this is a monumental time to be here and see things unfold. I really want to thank you for this opportunity, and my boss, my board chair, my board member, Caroline, and Ms. Woodson and Ms. Poros. Thank you. This has been an engaging and interesting conversation, and anything that NHSSF can do to help advance issues around equity, that's what we're here for.
Well, our work is just beginning. You and I, we're fighting the same fight. As you can see, I have some wonderful folks on my platform who I will give them everything that I have to make sure that they get elected, because I believe in these women, I believe in these leaders, because I am George Floyd and I do not believe that I'm the only one responsible for my safety. And I as well am responsible for all of your safety as well. So thank you so much, Kimberly Henderson, for being with us. And I'm hoping to see you again virtually and in person.
I'll be around.
Thank you so much. You
Thank
take
you.
care. Bye-bye. All right, so we're going to go to Kimberly, to Maureen, and then after that we'll go to Caroline, and then we'll go to Maria Woodson. And I know you all are very busy people. Maureen, as a member of the bar, as an attorney, running for office, when you are elected, your responsibilities will be beyond just legal parameters. I'd like to hear you, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I have a mayor I'm going to interview on Monday, a couple of mayors I'm going to interview next week, and I'm going to ask them the same question, and we should all be ready to answer this question. How can you balance, because you're not going to be responsible for just women in your district, right? You're not going to be responsible for Latinas, you're going to be responsible for me, you're going to be responsible for everybody. How do you balance Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter? How do you balance that? And that's a loaded question, because some people see them as opposing philosophies, Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter. And to me, they are not mutually exclusive. They're one and the same.
Yeah. So, I think everything that I do at work and in life, I do it in an equitable manner, right? And I believe in justice and equality. And so if justice is needed for a particular group of people, that's where I'm going to focus, if that makes sense, So when we talk about the difference between Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter, everyone knows that all lives matter. But Black Lives Matters are the ones that really right now, they need the justice and they need the focus. And that's what we need to do. In order to change the system, we have to be within the system, and we have to change and reform in the legislature, within the state attorney's office, within law enforcement offices, within our communities. Reform has to happen from every level, and that's exactly what we need to do. Now, I know that Marie mentioned something, which was, when an incident like this happens, everyone's up in arms and everyone's engaged, and we can't lose that engagement. We can't. We have to make change. And I think that activism and this type of engagement go hand in hand with that change that we need.
Absolutely. So we must maintain the momentum of the movement. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes. And that's what, also President Obama said. We need this activism to inform our elected officials, our leaders or candidates, to come out and listen. People want us to hear them, and we need, and part of my platform from day one, because I'm very familiar with it from the work that I do. And again, this system has been going on for so long. I'm in this belief that we're still dealing with, some of these issues, and why? It's because it needs to be changed from within. And, something that I want to point out is that our legislature, has made attempts to, sort of reform the system. They were successful last year in making some small changes, right? Nothing major, but they were, at least making the attempt. And then this year they tried again, but unsuccessfully. And why? Because we don't have elected officials that care enough to push these issues through. But we need to. We can't just forget about them once the rage is over. We can't. So we have to stand up, and we need to have candidates and elected officials that will not just show up when it's hot and happening, but that will follow through. And we need that change, like I said, within the legislature, starting with the legislature, because the legislature makes the laws. They make the laws. And so if we can change those laws to stop the unfairness, the racial disparities, we're going to work our way down, right? And so having a state attorney that will also work to end all these racial injustices is going to, help reshake and reform the system. And then we also have to work within the law enforcement departments. And, that's going to get a little trickier because, of course, there's a lot of resistance there too. And we can't forget that we also have police unions, that are also very involved in this. So in a way, we have to build coalitions, between elected officials in the legislature, state attorneys, police chiefs, sheriffs, and we have to work together to change the system from within. And we can't forget to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So having said that, please tell us, again, my specialty is targeted social media to rebroadcast your message over and over again until the widest audience can see it. Please tell us, how can the public get in touch with you? How can they help you on your campaign? You're running for 105, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later at another time, but tell us how they can reach you and how they can help you to obtain this wonderful goal that you set for yourself in 2020.
Yeah, so I'm very accessible. You can actually, and I invite you to check out my website at www.maureenporras.vote. That's MAUREENPORRAS.VOTE. I'm also very accessible through Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. In fact, I receive messages through Facebook all the time, and I engage with different voters and supporters. So feel free to reach out. You can also sign up on my website to volunteer for our newsletter and also to donate. So we can keep connected and we can take our message to our voters and really elect someone that will definitely focus on criminal justice reform and make these changes.
Thank you very much, hermana. Yo te agradezco profundamente. Apruebo tu candidatura, and we are going to talk a little bit longer about your candidacy in the future. And I am so proud to see my Latina sisters, my Latino brothers, and folks who at a time we didn't have the right to even think about going to law school. We didn't have the right to even think about going to school, period. And now folks are sitting in the Congress, being part of the process that makes the rules, because we definitely have to work from within. And I agree with you, and I plan to see you within in 2020, mi hermana Porras. So don't leave yet, because unless you have a commitment, you don't have to leave, right?
I'll stay,
okay.
I'll stay on, yes.
Thank you very much. Caroline, why you look like you're fading out on me? I can't.
I've been teaching on Zoom, so I have to, get all. Can you see me now? Can you see me now?
Yeah, but you look like a ghost. I mean,
I'm so sorry. How about now?
No.
Oh man.
While I can see.
Why. I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
That's okay. While you're getting it together, I'm going to. Are you using some sort of a virtual background? Is that what it is?
Probably that's what it is. Let me take it off real quick.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
While you're getting it together, I could go to Marie Woodson. Yes, let me go to Marie Woodson. Marie Woodson, talk to us about this is the question I have for both you and Caroline. Talk to us as you seek office. What does the American landscape look like for you? You, like me, we are both children of Hispaniola. You are a child of Haiti. I'm a child of Haiti. I was born in the Dominican Republic, but we are Haitian Americans. We are Haitian Americans. And talk to us about what the ideal American landscape would look like, because this is a fight, right? This is a fight for equality, for justice, for all people, for Black people, and for all people. So what would an ideal America look like to you?
Ted, thank you very much for this question. First of all, I would like to mention something that it's not that we're not looking into it, but we seem not to be talking about it so much. Officer Chauvin, Derek Chauvin, who in plain daylight murdered George Floyd, had 18 complaints prior to this incident happening. Wow. 18. And he was in the force for approximately 18 years as well. Wow. Only 2 of those complaints ended up with discipline, and still nothing was done. This is the United States of America that we're talking about. This is human life, a human being life that we are talking about that were taken away, while that could have been avoided had those 18 complaints were addressed in in a different way. So running for office, Ted, is really something that is dear to my heart. And as a public servant, I have been a public servant all my life. Even at a very young age, when I was in Haiti, my father used to make me teach kids during the summer whose parents could not afford to send them to school. I've always said that. Then when he gave me $5, he would tell me, spend two, put two aside, and give one to those who did not have. So this is personal to me. This is something that we all have to keep aiming at. We cannot let this go this time. Otherwise, all this work that we're doing would be in vain. Going to Tallahassee, I would make sure that we work on policies and laws. With my colleagues, we would work on policies and laws to make sure those type of issues are addressed, come up with legislation to make it easier for the police department to get rid of an officer if they have been disciplined so many times. And I felt like we let the family down. We let George Floyd down because that officer should not have been in the force for so long with 18 complaints. This is one. Mental health is a major issue. As you know, in our community, it's taboo, especially in the Haitian community. We don't want to face it. We don't want to deal with it. It's like we don't know, for some of us, we don't know any better. We feel like it's a phase that people are going to, or it's a phase that young people are going to. Something should have been done with this officer. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not saying he should, but I'm saying from a professional standpoint, that should have been addressed. So when I go to, I want to make sure that we have police reform, that we really sit down and not just putting policies on paper, but make sure that those policies are implemented in the police department. We have to come up with policy for the protection of the officer with the safety of citizens. This is what we're talking about. We want to make sure that our citizens are safe. People should not be walking in the street and fear for their life. The police is supposed to protect us. So we have, it's a lot that I would like to see happening. Just our youth, they are very engaged, and I'm so glad to see that. You see so many of them coming out. We can't let them down, to have them do so much work during this incident and for us to go back as the status quo, like business as usual. So I would like to see laws, legislation, local, state, and federal, at the federal level, to address this pandemic that we are dealing with, because we have COVID, but this is even worse than COVID. At least COVID, we can put protection, we put masks, we put gloves, we do this. This one came out of nowhere, and it keeps coming out of nowhere where we're not really protected. So this is the reason that I want to go to Tallahassee. I want to continue my life in public service to address those ills that our community is facing.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to come back for closing remarks from everybody, but let me just go to Caroline now that I can see you. I can see you. Caroline, talk to us about an ideal America. Talk to us about the America you'd like to see, whereby you and I are not treated differently by the justice system. You know, I mean, not that you're going to break any laws, not that I'm going to break any laws, but talk about the ideal America you'd like to see.
Well, you know, I'd like to see in America where the climate, well, I just wanted to briefly talk about how the police chiefs in Dade County came together and spoke out. That is something I don't think we've ever seen before. And, you know, there is a climate of not telling, not seeing. That's what allowed this person to get 18 violations. And those violations were probably not the real violations. They were like knocked down, right? And so, you know, just like we have the whistleblower policies, we need to have policies in place where those things can be exposed. We need to work, we need to invest in our chiefs. Those are the leaders. Those are the ones that guide. And often we've seen in Dade County where chiefs have really gone astray. In Biscayne Park, for example, that chief was recently indicted along with officers for falsifying reports and charging men of color and putting them away. And they, you know, an ideal world is where, you know, we make sure that we don't give up the fight. Like what Marie Woodson was saying, you cannot let the children build this momentum and let things go back as usual. So you have to have courage, you have to have wherewithal, you have to have the tenacity to stick with that, what you're beginning. And a few organizations come to mind. Ronnie Bennett has an organization called People of Color, where she has these awkward dinners where she's bringing people together so that we can begin to work on those issues person to person. We have organizations like the Martin Luther King Institute for Nonviolence, John Jones, where he teaches people about the Martin Luther King marches, the movement, and at a very deep level, and talks about, you know, from the bottom up and the top down and how we come together and engage. Organizations, I don't see enough restorative justice. We were talking about Oakland. I know the woman who started that in Oakland, and she's going around touring and talking. Our own John Dew, our dear John Dew, he's in Tallahassee. He's always been about restorative justice, but where are restorative justice programs where we can begin to teach people, hey, I can back down from this fight? And I just want to say most officers are doing the right thing.
Right,
but
right.
when
That is
that
true.
officer has to look away, they are complicit, even though they themselves are doing the right thing.
They're
So
part of the problem. They're part of the problem.
Yeah, and we're not supporting those officers to give them a safe way to address that. So I think that is something major that's going to change as we move forward in an ideal world.
Okay, if folks wanted to reach you, Caroline, in terms of the area that you're at and communities that you're directly connected with, how can they reach you, Caroline?
So as a matter of fact, I am a community council person, which is not a commissioner, it's a zoning board, basically. And so we get together and we are there to take the load off of commissioners. We're there to be the ears of the community when development is going on, that they can be a stakeholder and have their voices heard as well as, you know, when development is coming in. So we are that quasi-judicial group, and that's between 163rd basically and about 20th Street. It's like big puzzle pieces, and it's unincorporated Dade County. I can be reached by email at cckw411@gmail.com and by phone 786-560-3280.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask all of you guys to once again to text that information to me so I can go ahead and include it in the description of this video. Now, I'm going to go back to, and thank you very much, Caroline, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us here at the Broward Social Network. I'm going to go back to Maureen Porras for some closing statements, and then I'm going to go ahead and go to Marie Woodson for some closing statements as well. Maureen, we're going to set up a time where we can basically have a longer interview so that the community can get to know you a little bit better. And at that time, we'll revisit some of the same conversations. But for the people who are seeing you and hearing you for the first time, can you just very quickly outline the borders of your district? Because I know I have people in there. I know I have people who are a member of this platform in there. And I am very big on grassroots, getting the word out, one neighbor talk to another neighbor. So talk to us about the borders of your district, and Marie's going to do the same thing as well, so that people can know that you're the person to vote for in their area.
Yeah, thank you, Ted, for having me here, and again for hosting this very important discussion. So District 105 is one of those very large, funly drawn districts, and it actually covers Broward, West Miramar, and it reaches across Miami-Dade through Doral, Sweetwater, Hammocks, Country Walk, and it stretches all the way west to Collier County. So if you're in that area, you're in my district, and I would love for you to reach out. Something that I do want to say, kind of like a final remark, is to please vote. There's so much at stake right now. And like we mentioned, we need to keep this momentum going. We need to address this issue. And one of the best ways to do that is to vote for leaders and candidates that will take on this issue. So there's a really, really strong power in your vote, and you get to decide who is going to represent you and who's going to carry this issue forward.
Okay, thank you so very, very much. And Marie Woodson, talk to us about the borders of your district so that the folks who are going to vote for you can tell their neighbors and their friends. And by the way, you may call it unfair, but it is what it is. This is the era of the women. Women are going to win by a landslide this year. So I'm sorry. I mean, I didn't even make that up. That's just been out there. Have you heard that? This is the era of the women. Women are going to be elected left, right, and center. So sorry, guys. You know, so it is what it is. Let's take that to the bank. So talk to us about your district, Marie.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you for that. Yes, women's going to take 2020 by storm. I'm telling you, I'm so glad to see so many women running for office, with me included. Again, my name is Marie Woodson. I'm a candidate running for State House District 101. 101 entails parts of Hollywood, Pembroke Pines, Miramar, Allendale, the entire West Park and Pembroke Park. The district starts from the north end. It starts on Taft Street. Taft Street all the way to Dixie. There's a little sliver of Sheridan when you get to 20th Street, but it's from Taft all the way to Dixie Highway. From Dixie Highway, on the west side of it, at Douglas, you know, Taft Douglas Street and Pembroke Pines, all the way to Pembroke Road. And from Pembroke Road, it cuts on University. University all the way to County Line Road. So you can take off Taft to Douglas, Douglas all the way to Pembroke Road to University, and University all the way to County Line Road. From County Line Road all the way to Dixie Highway in Hallandale, all the way to Dixie Highway. So it's a large district. So I'm asking everyone to think of Taft and County Line Road, Douglas, and Dixie Highway.
Right.
I'm asking you to please, if you live in that district, please remember on August 18, 2020, to vote for Marie Woodson, your public servant.
Yes, most definitely. Marie Woodson all the way. However, I'm going to go back to Maureen for something to do the same, but in a different format, because believe it or not, even the people who live in that district may not be able to follow what you said. Let's do it a different way. How about you call out the zip codes, right? Because most people know their zip codes. So just tell us those zip codes people have to remember. It says, okay, I live in that zip code, so I have to vote for Marie Woodson. What are your zip codes, Marie Woodson, in your district?
33009, 33020, 33021, 33023, 23024, and 33025. I'm going to repeat them again.
Yes, I'm 33025, so therefore definitely you have my vote.
Thank you so much. I know I had it before you even say that.
That's right.
I know my brother had my vote. 33009, 33020, 33021, 33023, 33024, and 33025. You may reach me as well at www.mariewoodson2020.com. Marie Woodson, MarieWoodson.com. Or you may call me at 954-696-7428. Please go visit my website. You can donate, you can volunteer, you can be a supporter. Even if it's for some words of encouragement, please visit the site. Thank you.
Well,
thank you.
For the people, even though we are in a moment of mourning for George Floyd, I am also excited about you ladies running for office. And one of the, call me biased, call me what you want, but one of the many reasons why I support Maureen Porras, why I support Marie Woodson, because like it or not, these are my people. I mean, these are my people. These are immediate members of my family. I am a Latino American. I am a child of Africa. I am a non-English speaking immigrant. These are people who probably have experienced some of the same things I've experienced coming to this country, not speaking English and making something of themselves. I have great respect. I don't care where you're from or what your last name is. I have great respect who are able to, people who come to this country, give to this country, and become successful in it, coming with nothing. coming with nothing. I mean, you are heroines. You are heroines, and you are the example that I'd like my students to see. I'd like my daughters to see. Wow, you know, she came here, she didn't speak English. Now she's a lawyer. She's a state representative. She's making policy. She is respected. She is somebody who can help make me safer. So there's a connection between current events and voting. You absolutely must take advantage of this wonderful privilege that we were given. How could you not? How could you not? So many people have fought for this right, and therefore we have to exercise that. We have to exercise that. So before I close, Maureen, do you know, can you call out your zip codes? And we're going to set up a time where we can basically get to know you better as a candidate and broadcast, because Marie has gotten a couple of videos, and I'm telling you, I wake up like a prayer and I plaster the image and the name of Marie Woodson on the psyche of the people in that district. They're going to remember that name. They're going to remember that name so badly that when they close their eyes and go into the booth, their finger will land on Marie Woodson. So therefore, that's my specialty. So call out your zip codes, and then we're going to talk about, in a couple of days, we'll talk about the strategies of how we're going to get you on the minds of the people who are going to vote in District 105.
Absolutely. So here we go. It's 33018, 33029, 33172, 33174, 33178, 33182, 33184, 33187, 33193, 33194, 33196, 34104, 34113, 34114, 34116, 34117, 34120, 34137, 34141, and 34142.
That is huge. That is
huge. Very large district.
That is huge. We cannot knock on doors nowadays because of social distancing. Yeah. Lord have mercy. You'd be losing a whole lot of weight knocking on all those doors. Lord have mercy. Yes. All right. So the time is approximately 1 hour and 30 minutes. My goodness, time flies, right? So let's get any closing statements before we close. Caroline, any closing statements?
I think it's important for us to work together, to collaborate, to join forces, and to support one another, and because together we can do it, but individually we're just spinning our wheels. So I'm all about working together.
Thank you so very much. Mary Woodson, any closing statements?
Yes, thank you so much, Ted, and thank you to all the panelists. I was very blessed to be in the company of so many great women, smart women, powerful women. My message tonight is keep the pressure on. Keep the fire burning, because there's no way, like I mentioned earlier, that we would start this movement and then stop. No, it needs to go on. It needs to continue. We cannot fail our young generation. We cannot fail ourselves, because if we stop this movement, it's like we did not. You wash your hands and you wipe it on the floor. As well, m'a dit tout haïtien pareil moi yo, que ma avec nous, m'camper avec nous et m'a toujours là avec nous. M'a couru pour district 101 nan, c'est pas politique que n'a fait là, son bagay très sérieux que n'a décidé, but m'a dit nous que m'a avec nous et m'a continuer avec nous, kembe là parce que tout noir c'est noir koto sorti la police rete ou, police pas mandé ou, c'est au noir, soit américain, soit jamaïcain, c'est un monde noir que yo ouais un peu police, c'est pas tout pour nous dire bon un peu nan yo. Para la gente que habla español, yo estoy poseando para el Congreso del Estado de Florida. En este tiempo, yo te digo que yo estoy contigo y tiene que trabajar conjunto para ese problema que la comunidad tiene ahora. Yo tiene que votar para mí el 18 de agosto 2020. Yo estoy preguntando para su ayuda y para su soporte. En agosto 18, 2020. Muchas gracias todo. Together, we are going to get through this, and together we are going to make it happen for the betterment and the safety of our community and our people. Thank you, Ted.
I love it. I love it. I love Beautiful. It. There's just no way that you can win. There's just no way that you can win an election without all communities pitching in. And, you know, I often say South Florida is in Latin America. South Florida is in the Caribbean. So
right.
I remember as a non-English speaking immigrant, if somebody said buenos dias or bonjour to me, I could then really zone in on that person because the person was trying to reach out to me and so forth. So
Right.
Maureen Porras, give us your closing statements, and you'll be the last person to address the platform. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ted. And again, thank you for this discussion. And just to reiterate the words of these wonderful ladies, we cannot let the fire go out. We really can't. And together we can really make change, and we can make change for everyone. There's no reason why we have to exclude anyone. Everyone is, all the voices need to be heard. And that's exactly what we'll be doing. And election day for me is August 18th as well. And then of course, November 3rd. So please come out and vote, even if you can't vote, because I know that South Florida has a lot of immigrants, but a lot of those immigrants are also married to US citizens or have US citizen children. Get them out to vote, to speak for you, and to make sure that your voice is also heard. So thank you again. And I hope that we can all stay connected, and let's build a good community for all of us.
Thank you very much. Muchísimas gracias, hermana. There you go. There you have it, social media land. I am Ted Victor, signing out with the Broward Social Network. Today we had part 2 of women's response to Minneapolis. And I've given you an array of women who are sensitive to the current climate in the United States and who are willing to go the long haul to make changes, to go to Tallahassee on your behalf and make sure that I am safe, that we do not have another George Floyd, that you are safe, and who is ready to build coalitions. Once again, we are all equally children of God, and we must work together. Again, I thank you. My name is Ted Victor. I'm here to serve you, the community. If you have any questions, you can reach me via Facebook and just Google Broward Social Network or Ted Victor. Send me a message and we can have a conversation to invite your neighbors, your co-workers, your family members to go out and vote so that we can have equal representation so that all human beings can be respected equally. I thank you so very much. And I thank all my panelists very much today.
We thank you so much as well, Ted. Thank you for the good work that you're doing.
Buenas noches. Bonsoir. Muchas gracias.
Bonsoir. Bonsoir.
Adiós. Bye-bye.
Hasta luego. Que tenga una buena noche.
Muchas gracias.
Bonne nuit tout le monde.
Bonne nuit. Merci. Bye-bye. Good night, Maureen. Good night, Caroline. Thank you.
Let's keep working hard and bring it home, okay?
Thank you so very much. Thank you.
All right.